Good morning, Year 10. We're going to carry on with our analysis today of With a Little Help from My Friends. So this is your study piece for Area of Study 2. And just a reminder that Area of Study 2 is popular music. Okay, so we've talked about this a little bit last lesson. I'm not going to go over what we've already done. Just a reminder that all of three of the Beatles pieces studied are from the album Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. Okay. The Beatles had stopped performing live before they made this album, and that was really important because it changed how their music was made. So instead of being restricted to having 4 players in their pieces, they could multi-track, record, they could make the music much more complicated because it was never going to be performed live. The name Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band refers to a fake band, a pretend band. So they came up with this idea that they were going to send their record on tour rather than them going on tour. They made up a pretend band, and the name of the band is Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. And then they made up alter egos for each member of the band. So, for example, Ringo Starr's alter ego was called Billy Shears. And the album is made so that it sounds a bit like a live concert. Okay, so this is a recap of the intro last lesson. Now, last lesson I got you to answer some questions on the intro. This week I've just written some information on the slide for you. So there's 3 major chords played. We have C major, D major and E major. You can hear that. They sing over the top of it, Billy Shears. So the music's getting higher, it's ascending. They have those 3 chords. You've got the crowd noise so that it sounds like a live concert. And when we use real samples from real music, we call it music concrete. Okay, so that's the intro. I'm not going to play the intro because you heard it last lesson, but I'm just showing you this information so that you can make notes in your music book if you've got it. If not, please make notes in a notepad, which you're going to keep safe. So that when you're in Year 11, you have this information, okay? I've also uploaded this PowerPoint to the Files tab of Teams so that you can use it for revision if you have access to PowerPoint. Okay, so just jot down some notes. You can pause the video if you need longer to see the notes, and then we're going to move on. So verse 1, again, we looked at verse 1 last lesson, so I'm not going to play it. Ringo Starr is the singer for the song. He's usually the drummer of the band. But the Beatles wrote a song for him on every album. So that's really important that you know that With a Little Help from My Friends is sung by Ringo Starr. Now, the reason it's important is Ringo was not a very good singer. He had what we call a limited vocal range, which means he couldn't sing really high and really low. So he could only sing kind of in the middle of his range. He was a baritone, which is a fairly low male voice. Tenor, remember, is a high male voice, so he was a baritone, so it's quite low male voice. The melody is very simple, and that's because of Ringo's limited vocal range. So it moves in step. Da 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 da. It's not moving in big leaps, it's just moving up and down by one note at a time. It uses 5 different notes, so it's only got a range of a fifth. Okay, the song's in E major at this point, so the beginning of the song is in E major. The chords are played in a crotchet rhythm, which means that there's a chord played on every beat of the bar. So if you clap the beat to the bar, it goes 1, 2, 3, 4. What would you do if I sang out of tune? Okay, so on every beat, whenever you would clap, there is a chord played. So listen out for that in the verse. The meter, the time signature is 4/4. We've just said that. The verse is based on 3 chords. We have an E major, an F minor, and a B major chord. And these are chords 1, 2, and 5 in the E major key. You know that because you've been doing that in composition. So if you write out the E major key signature and we build a triad on each of those notes of the scale, you would see that E major is chord 1, F sharp minor is chord 2, and B major is chord 5. Now, when you're listening to the verse, listen out for the complex bass line. That's played by Paul McCartney on the bass guitar. So when you are listening, just listen for the bass guitar part because it's very melodic. it almost sounds like a second melody. It isn't, it's still part of the accompaniment, but it sounds like one. And that's important. And the texture at this point is melody and accompaniment, which is also very important because in verse 2, that texture changes.